Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. It's honestly quite rare to have branch lines in London compared to other parts of the UK, but today I'll be reviewing one of the select few that do exist. The branch line in question is the Grove Park to Bromley North line, and I will be taking you through the history of the line, the current state of it, and what I believe could be improved about the line. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe to my channel, and share this video, as it massively helps me out and I greatly appreciate it. Anyway, on with the video. On January 1st, 1878, the Grove Park to Bromley North line first opened by the Bromley Direct Railway Company, with the South Eastern Railway to compete against the London, Chatham and Dover Railway, who operated through Bromley South. It was not uncommon for companies to compete against each other, particularly in London, where such examples of competition can be seen with the Gospel Oats of Barking line, where there are plenty of missed useful connections, similar with the North London line in some places. When railways were first constructed, companies would often compete against each other for patronage, so it's quite interesting to see what could have been considered a coalition between two railway companies competing against another railway company. When constructed, it's interesting to note that it was double track in the beginning, which suggests that passenger numbers were forecasted to be much higher than they ended up being. However, the double track layout has made the line more versatile when it comes to the proposals suggested for the branch, which I will be covering later on in the video. The branch line opened with 3 stations, situated at Grove Park, Plaistow and Bromley North. When the line was constructed, the South Eastern Railway faced financial hardships and had entered what is described as its economical era, where the station buildings were built at low cost. In 1923, the line was taken on by the Southern Electric Railway, and after operating with steam locomotives for a few decades, the line was eventually electrified with Third Rail's 750V DC power in 1926. Leaving the 1920s, however, the economically built stations by the South Eastern Railway came back to haunt the Southern Electric Railway, as in 1929, Sunridge Park station had to be rebuilt, and various reports over the internet suggest that the original Bromley North station was horrendous as well. When the line first opened in 1878, the railway line had a mixture of services either terminating at Grove Park or running into central London to Cannon Street or Charing Cross. However, in 1976, services into London became peak hour only due to a hefty re-signalling project that meant trains couldn't cross over onto the fast lines and run into central London. When it comes to wild ideas, this is unfortunately what has prevented some from going ahead, although I'll cover more in detail why that's the case later on in the video. The London Bridge re-signalling project reduced the Central London to Bromley North services to peak hour only, although in 1990, services into Central London destinations ceased operation. Due to the track layouts approaching Central London, it would mean that London Terminator services would only be able to stop at Hither Green, and miss out key interchanges at New Cross and Lewisham, where suburban folk may wish to change at to reach their destinations. So it was decided that the Grove Park to Bromley North line was to operate as a half-hourly shuttle, and not much has really changed since then, although in December of 2011, the frequency was increased to every 20 minutes, although the line has remained Monday to Saturday only. The line sees a mixture of 465s and 466s in use on the line, although given how light loadings were when I used recording footage for this video, it's safe to say a 466 provides more than enough capacity. The first stop on the branch is of course Grove Park. The station is well connected to other trains and buses, and has connections to all over South East London, even stretching as far as Elephant and Castle and Locksbottom. When we left Grove Park, from what I remember I was one of only 5 people on board the train, although when I filmed this journey it was midsummer holidays, so I imagine a more regular user of the line would be able to give a slightly more accurate figure on how many people they see using it per day. We boarded onto Unit 465919, a Metro Camel example of South Eastern's large Class 465 fleet, and a Dash 9 which is a firm favourite of enthusiasts. The unit, like with many of South Eastern's other units, was looking worse for wear, with seats falling off and cushions looking easily stolen. It's worth mentioning that this unit doesn't usually work the line. Dash 9s are more accustomed to working longer distance services, and the jointed track plus Metro Camel motors are an excellent combination, so chances are I'll probably upload the video without the voiceover separately for enthusiasts to enjoy. The driver was also kind enough to let us have a nosy around in the cab, so kudos to the southeastern driver who allowed my mate and I to have a look around. The journey all in all takes 5 minutes from Grove Park to Bromley North, so we set off and about 3 minutes later arrived at the second stop on the branch, being Sunridge Park. Sunridge Park serves the Plaistow Green area, and whilst the unit was still quiet passenger numbers wise once we left the station, no one alighted, but people did board. Personally, I found this quite interesting, because the station is only about 700 metres out of Bromley North, and there are far closer and more frequent bus services operating into Bromley Town Centre, and to the far more frequently served Bromley South. It's certainly interesting. About 2 minutes later, we arrived to our final destination, being Bromley North, which despite its quiet nature boasts an entire bus station. It could be argued that Bromley South really overshadows Bromley North, given South is far closer to the High Street and receives a far higher service frequency, along with services stretching as far as Ramsgate and Ashford, and some services running non-stop into London Victoria. Therefore, it's easy to see why the station boasts far more passengers, and why travelling via Grove Park is less than preferable to commuters, except if they work in the city. However, for what is less than a 2-mile branch with no Sunday service and operating every 20 minutes, the passenger numbers boasted by Sunridge Park and Bromley North are actually quite impressive. Passenger numbers in the late 2010s fluctuated near the 250,000 mark at Sunridge Park and between 450,000 and 500,000 mark at Bromley North. Whilst these numbers are absolutely not to be scoffed at given the nature of the line, clearly some folk don't believe the line is suitable in its current form, and there have been plenty of proposals across the years swirling around about how to make the line more useful. One of the first proposals for the line suggested by Boris Johnson was for an extension of the DLR southwards from Lewisham to Grove Park and Bromley North, breathing new life into the shuttle. This has certainly not been the first suggestion to extend the DLR from Lewisham southwards. Various suggestions over the years have suggested Catford and Forest Hill. However, this was completely unviable due to the current terminus platforms at Lewisham being below the southeastern main line, and would require quite a steep incline to reach the level of the existing southeastern main line, not to mention extensive demolition of trackside properties and grade separation over the southeastern main line at some stage to actually reach the point at which you can join the Grove Park shuttle. Completely unfeasible, I'm afraid, even if Bromley would benefit from better links to and from the Docklands and Stratford. There is also the question of cost when it comes to the viability of this suggestion. Given Lewisham has been massively regenerated over the past decade, would we want all that progress to be undone? As realistically, any extension of the DLR from Lewisham would require significant demolition of the town centre. Personally, I don't think so, and I think this is the most unrealistic and arguably the worst suggestion as to what to do with the Grove Park to Bromley North line. Another simple on the outside but yet complex on the inside idea commonly thrown around is the extension of the London Overground from New Cross to Bromley North, through St John's, Lewisham and Hither Green. It sounds like an excellent idea on the outside. Bromley would now finally be connected to Lewisham by rail, and Bromley and Lewisham would now have improved access into the city and end of London. However, Clapham Junction, Crystal Palace and West Croydon services are often rammed full of commuters during the peak hours, and the New Cross terminators must pick up the slack for punters wishing to board in the Surrey Quays area. Due to how the East London Line section of the Overground was reconstructed back in 2009, it is extremely difficult to extend the platforms, and Canada Water already gets regularly overcrowded due to the singular escalator to the Jubilee Line, so it would be difficult to extend the train length of each Overground train to soak up the extra demand. So it could be argued that extending the Overground to Bromley North would generate some of its own demand, meaning that the empty Overground services pulling into Surrey Quays would be no more due to extra commuters from Lewisham and the like. Plus, the branch at the minute operates every 20 minutes, whereas New Cross services operate every 15, and it's unclear whether a 5-car every 15-minute service would be at all necessary between Grove Park and Bromley North. This was also run into the similar grade separation issues as with the DLR, and even with the controversial southeastern timetable recasting at the end of 2022, I heavily doubt more trains can be accommodated through Lewisham. I think it was a massive shame that when Lewisham was being regenerated, the extra platforms weren't built at Lewisham to accommodate New Cross terminators. However, As I mentioned earlier on in this segment, that could have meant a massive increase in the number of passengers using the East London Line core of the London Overground. Alright, so it's clear any extension cannot be from the South Eastern Main Line direction. What about from the Bromley direction? Here comes another highly unlikely idea, being the Bakerloo Line being extended even further from its Beckenham Junction proposed terminus to Bromley North, and finally continuing up into Grove Park. However, it runs into a similar problem with the DLR extension, where the impact of its construction could be very disruptive to the local area, with Bromley Town Centre probably seeing a massive hit construction-wise, and tunnelling is also very expensive compared to building above ground. And as per a TfL Freedom of Information request, it suggests the extension from Beckenham Junction to Bromley would be wholly underground, so that would make the suggestion unviable financially. Not to mention that it would take an extremely convoluted detour just to reach Grove Park. Punters would likely prefer travelling via Hither Green to reach Grove Park and Bromley, and Harrow and Wealdstone to Bromley North sure does sound like a long journey for a Bakerloo Line train. Well, I suppose this is the likeliest of all proposals to ever come to fruition, and that is the extension of the tram link from Beckenham Junction to Bromley North, before taking on the branch up to Grove Park. This idea on paper would be the best. The line would be entirely off-road from Bromley North to Grove Park. However, you would run into some issues, such as the tight corners between Beckenham and Shortlands if street running was to be the preferred option. Could overhead wires fit underneath the low bridge at Shortlands? And compared to Croydon, where the tram circles the town centre, without taking a massive detour, the tram would only scrape the surface of Bromley if it were to terminate at Grove Park, which would be a massively missed opportunity because a proper Bromley South and town centre to Croydon link would be a neat addition to the tram network. Having said that, this would be my personal preference, as it is evident that the tram link is already very well used due to being able to cross South London on it, so the tram would finally reach South East London properly. There would also be the potential for a new tram stop at New Street Hill as well, further enticing passengers to the branch. Do I think this suggestion is likely to happen though? Even though I would like to see it, absolutely not. It's hard to say really what the future for the line is, especially when routes 126 and 261 parallel the line in its entirety, and the 314 from Sunridge Park into Bromley clearly take far more passengers than the less frequent branch line. It's also worth mentioning that the line temporarily had a service into London Bridge in 2004, when the Class 376s were tested by Connex at the time, so really, anything is possible. Having said that, as I mentioned earlier on in the video, the passenger numbers are extremely impressive given the nature of the line. So tell me, what do you all think will be the future of the line? Anyway, thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please like and subscribe, and share this video. This massively helps me out, and I'd greatly appreciate it if you could. Anyway, that's it from me. See you in the next video.